Today is the beginning of our CBF Global Missions celebration, and we have a guest with us today, Reverend Amanda Atkin. Amanda was my very first friend in seminary. So we met on the first day of orientation. That was about 5 years ago or so, a long time ago, and we, through the years, have had lots of adventures together. I was mentioning a few weeks ago in worship about, I mentioned the conflict going on in the Middle East, and she and I were on the same trip where we actually got to go to Gaza. And we were talking about that this morning, just our memories of that place and the people there, and just our heartbreak at what is going on in that land and the suffering that is happening. And especially just all those experiences so many years ago, for me, were really like transforming, and just the thought of the suffering that's going on now is a really, really sad thing. We all need to be in prayer for folks there, and there's so many Christians in that area too that have suffered, so we need to pray for them. So Amanda has served churches in South Carolina and in North Carolina and here in Virginia, down in Petersburg. She now works for CBF in Raleigh with the Welcome House Ministry. So today she's going to be talking with us about what Welcome House does and what ministries they're involved in Raleigh. She has brought her husband Doug with her. Doug and Shane go back a long way too. The funny story we always tell, when Amanda and I went to Israel and Palestine for 3 weeks, Doug and Shane got together. It was very, very cold that year in Richmond. The James River had frozen over, and I think they watched the Weather Channel together, many hours. And also there's something about trying to get into a UVA basketball game too, right? Yeah, y'all. UVA Duke basketball game where they snuck in and sat with the students in the students section.
Well, we didn't see you, we were invited.
You were invited in by a fraternity?
Yes, it was said, get in the back of the line, come in with us. I thought, is that right?
They were not students, but anyway, so it was a lot of fun. So we're so glad to have Amanda here. They left their 16-year-old son Sam at home, and this is his first overnight by himself. So hopefully the house is still standing. Yes. So we're so honored and thrilled to have Amanda with us today, and she's going to share with us some about the ministry going on in Raleigh.
Excellent. Thank you. It's such a delight to be here. Christine and Shane are just treasured friends, and I have been with you here twice now, and this will be my third time being with the Good Folks in Front Royal. I'm so delighted to be here. So yes, Welcome House. Welcome House does just that. We welcome folks who are coming into our community, and the whole point of what we're trying to do is be good neighbors. When I was a child, a little girl in GAs, I always thought, well, it would be wonderful to be a missionary, but I really don't want to go live in a foreign country. And what I realize now is that the world is coming to us. And so Welcome House tries to speak into that with grace and love and light. So, the founders of Welcome House Raleigh are Mark and Kim Wyatt, longtime CBF field personnel. They began Matthew House in Canada and received a call to come to North Carolina and establish Welcome Houses in North Carolina. We also have a network in Tennessee, and I'm not sure if we have one in a network beginning in Virginia yet or not, but I think when folks learn about what this ministry is, it may cause you or compel you to seek out internationals in your community and be good neighbors, or it may just help you think more about folks who just need a good friend, which is what we think the ministry of the gospel is about hospitality and welcome. So, Welcome House Network. Now, a little bit more about me, maybe, I don't know. Click. Oh, there. So again, I'm the chaplain. You'll see some things up there about me. I have a Labrador retriever named Collins. More about him in the sermon. You'll see the hiking shoes up there. Most everything that I've ever learned about faith and spirituality has either come in the church or in nature. And so sometimes I can remember one day when my And then like 8-year-old was complaining about a hike that his dad and I made him take. And he was tired and he laid down in the middle of the trail and said, I just can't go any further. And I went, after, our 1 mile walk, I went, you know what? I bring you to church into the woods for your spirit. Now get up. So, that is important. I like Ted Lasso. I like that idea of being curious and not judgmental. And then you'll also see a very famous statue. This is in Portugal, but it really kind of speaks to the refugee experience. That when folks come to our country as refugees, they're fleeing. They don't really choose to leave their homes, their families, their careers. And so while the folks that I work with are extremely grateful and beyond resilient, there is a wound that we're also seeing and caring for. So, Welcome House, we are people who feel passionately that all of our neighbors should receive a place in our community, and we work with community partners because when we work with our neighbors together, we're stronger than doing it by ourselves. So we work with refugee agencies, we work with churches, we work with civic groups, all to kind of understand how we can better support those newcomers in our community. And we do this very specifically. We offer temporary housing. When you come into my context, Raleigh, North Carolina, on the airplane, you are greeted at the airport, and oftentimes, as you know, it takes a while to get permanent housing. And so instead of putting people in hotels, they come to Welcome House. And there they're able to have a hot meal. We provide friendship, a little bit of orientation, and then when they move, we support them with setting up their apartments, and then supporting their education because they have to learn English, they have to get ready for school, they have to start a path towards citizenship, and so we're able to help with that as well because church folks, just like yourself, step up and share what they can. This is my then son, Samuel. He's older now. And this is his friend, Joshua. They're classmates. And they've been friends together since 4th grade. Now they're juniors in high school. And this is at Joshua's father's naturalization ceremony, the day that Joshua's dad became an American citizen. And it was just, we were all so excited, and it was such a great day. I want to tell you about Joshua's story because I think that helps you understand a little bit about what Welcome House is trying to do and the journey that our friends make. So again, when you're a refugee, it's not that you wake up one day and say, maybe I'd like to live in Paris. Maybe I'd like to just go live in a different city. People are coming and becoming refugees because of war, famine, genocide, civil unrest. They're fleeing for their lives. They make their ways to a UN refugee camp, probably in a different country. After about anywhere from 13 to 20 years is the average stay in a refugee camp. Some folks never leave a refugee camp. They can come to the United States or any other country. Refugees don't get to pick where they go. They're assigned by the UN. So when they learn that they're actually going to be admitted into a new country, it's just whatever they get. You get what you get and don't throw a fit. So you come to the US and then you have to learn all the things. That's where we step in, and then you eventually can become a citizen. Refugees are fully documented. They're legally here. They receive benefits and assistance and are welcomed into this country. And there's a quota every year set by the State Department. Okay, so for Joshua's family, come on, let's go here. His parents fled. His parents are from the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo. They were in Kinshasa. They were young teens, 12, 13 years old. Their village was ransacked. They had to start fleeing. They were disassociated. Thinking about Joshua's dad, he was disassociated from his family. He didn't know where they were. And so he started walking. and picking up rides, but basically traveled all the way across Africa. Made his way into Uganda and kept going and finally found a refugee camp in Kenya. This is a refugee camp in Uganda, Nakia Valley, but when his dad arrived at the refugee camp, they gave him a tarp and a machete and instructed him to build his house. So this is kind of what when refugees land in a refugee camp, they start building and constructing their own housing with whatever they can find, and that's home while they go through the process. So as we talked about, the vetting process for a refugee is extensive. So I know you can't read all the steps and I won't go through it, but once you apply to be a refugee and have refugee status, then there are about 6 to 7 security checks that are made throughout the years. There's health screenings, biometric screenings, interviews. I'm sorry, go back. Anyway, that's a 2-page poster about all the steps that refugees have to have. And then probably about a week or 2 weeks notice you're given that you're going to be coming, and welcome to your new home, Raleigh, North Carolina. You can imagine that Joshua's dad had no idea what Raleigh, North Carolina, I mean, y'all may not even know where Raleigh is, but you live here. When you go through an international airport, I don't know if y'all have traveled internationally, but sometimes you'll see folks who have these white IOM bags. Those are bags that refugees carry their things with. They go in herds. And talking with my friends who have gone through this process, they don't know where they're going. They don't know the people who are taking them. It is just a giant leap of faith. Some of them have never been outside a village or a refugee camp. Some of the kids who are born into the refugee camps have never known anything like this. And so they're putting them on an airplane and taking them to a foreign country all throughout customs. So when you get to Raleigh, yay, we're so excited to have you. We greet you at the airport along with a social worker. You come directly to a Welcome House Community House Network, and we provide a hot meal that makes sense. So we have the joy of having folks who have come through the process and been in the United States for several years, and they're always so willing to prepare a culturally appropriate meal for folks. Because when you think about it, when you get to, after traveling, right, you just want to eat and you want to sleep. I don't know about you, but when I went to Uganda, my travel back was 32 hours of being in airports or airplanes. I did not have my children with me. I did not have family that I was trying to herd. So when they get to Welcome House, they're a little culture shock. I mean, they're just shocked. So we provide a hot meal, take a rest, start orienting, and then you stay at Welcome House until permanent housing is found. And what that does is, every family that comes to the United States, or every person who comes to the United States as a refugee, is given starter money. And so right now that is $1,225 per person. So if you think about Joshua and his family, it's a family of 5. They relocated to a brand new city with no skills, no language, no job prospects, and they were given $6,125. That's it. And so what Welcome House is able to do through the support of churches and CDF and like-minded faith people is to try to stretch that money, because the parents are having to learn as quickly as they can English so that they can get jobs. First-time jobs are generally food service personnel, things that don't require a lot of English. Remember, if you have any certifications in your home country, generally those licenses do not travel to the United States, so you're starting all over again. So if you were a dentist in the Congo, you will not be a dentist in Raleigh, North Carolina. So you would wash dishes, or you might go work at the chicken plant, or you might build boxes. And so it's stressful. We try to come in and help them furnish their apartments. We stock the pantry. We make sure they have seasonally appropriate clothing. And so we help them in all those things. And then we start teaching. So we come alongside them with English as a second language classes, kindergarten readiness classes, citizenship classes, because they have a certain period of time to apply for citizenship. And then we also offer pop-up clinics for dentistry, vaccines, things like that, especially during COVID. Those were really helpful. And most important, we have church members who decide, I just like to be a friend. I would like to offer some friendship. And so we have folks who get together for baby showers or for graduations or, celebrating all those pieces of life that is still continuing for these families. So this is a little outdated. We have more countries to shade in, but just as a kind of a visual of all the folks that we see in Raleigh, North Carolina that have come through Welcome House. I would add to that Venezuela, the Ukraine, some of those other places are also, we have a lot. With the Afghan crisis, we saw a great surge. The Ukrainian crisis, we dealt with a lot of Ukrainians. And now we're also seeing Venezuelans who are coming through as well. And our whole point is just to remind folks that Jesus welcomed everyone, and that's what we would like to do, is just to make sure that everybody knows that they're welcome. Okay, so that was a lot of talking. Do you have any questions? Any thoughts?
I'm curious, you said people need to qualify to be refugees.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So they have to have a stated purpose, and then that purpose has to be verifiable.
And what would be a stated purpose?
They came and burnt down my village,
Oh, I see.
and if I go home, they will kill me. And then that has to be able to be documented, and it has to be verified. And then once that's done, then you have to start going through security clearances. And then after you start moving through those security clearances that will last anywhere from 2 to 3 years, then you can start being considered a provisional acceptance, and then you wait some more, and then do some more security clearances. And it's just, what I would like for you to understand is that folks who are coming to America as with refugee status are some of the most carefully screened and vetted individuals who live in our country. And they're not, again, if you think about how do you prove that you've lost everything, but you have to.
So that's what you have to prove to get out.
And you also have to wait for those quotas, it's a lottery. And so even after you're fully cleared, fully vetted, you've been given refugee status, you've gotten all your security clearances, now you have to wait for a place. You have to wait for a spot in Great Britain or France or the United States or Canada or Australia. You have to wait.
So does the State Department control the lottery?
No, the UN does.
So go to the United Nations.
Yes, all the refugee process, especially for folks there, it begins and is run through the United Nations, and then once a person is identified for a specific country, then that country
How do they choose the country?
is randomly assigned. And I'm not really sure what all the machinations are within the State Department about where they're pulling people from. That's above my pay grade. I would not know how to do that. But I will also say, not only is the vetting and process going on through the UN, it's also their security clearances are reviewed by the State Department, Homeland Security, the FBI. Everybody has a chance to take a look.
How do they provide documentation for that?
I think, news reports, verifiable events, things like that. Biometrics. You have a question? Yeah.
Couple. First one, who notifies you that these folks are coming?
So we work closely with the refugee resettlement agencies. So in Raleigh, there are 3: Church World Service, Lutheran Family Services, and the United States Committee for Refugee Resettlement. Those are the 3 refugee resettlement agencies that are notified that someone is coming. And then we work with those agencies to provide support. There's a list of things that the refugee agency has to provide and is mandated by law. And then what we find that we can do is step into the gaps. So everybody's supposed to have a social worker that registers them for school. Okay, great, so they registered them for school, but has anybody gone to see if everybody has everybody is fully vaccinated when they come here, but do they have their paperwork? Does the child know how to get on the bus? All those pieces that we find church members like yourselves know how to do. And so at that point where the social work stops, we're there to just kind of fill in some of those gaps.
My next question was, when they do come and they come to the house,
Mhm.
does the family have their own room or is it like a big dormitory?
So you would think of it kind of like a hostel. It's a house. We have right now operating 3 houses in Raleigh. Welcome House Crabtree, Welcome House Hayes Barton, Welcome House Temple. And then there are welcome houses in Durham, in Greenville, in Chapel Hill. But these are houses, sometimes they're old parsonages. And so every family is given a bedroom, or they might get 2 bedrooms, and generally we try to let them have their own bath. So they have their own sleeping bath things, but the kitchen is communal, which is actually a big help. The living areas are communal, so that we can visit, do some ESL classes, just start kind of orienting folks to, okay, well, here's the bus, let's go ride the bus together. Talking about, like, we stock the pantries, right, so that there's food there, they don't have to go find food. I can remember one woman came and she could not sleep at all that night, and by the time we were there the next morning, we realized no one had told her that she could drink from the tap. So she had spent all night worried about where was she going to walk to go get water. And so, or if you think about that house that I showed you in Nakia Valley, there's no doors. So we're teaching folks things like, here's how you lock the door. So in some ways, Welcome House Raleigh is a really good first step. So that when you get to your apartment, you have some ideas of how does the heating and air conditioning system work? How does the washer and dryer work? How do all these pieces that some folks are from cities and they do know, some folks are very rural and they don't know.
It wasn't stated, but am I correct in assuming that the bedding and the toiletries and all that's provided?
We have a church in Wake Forest, right outside of Raleigh, and their ladies, they have a quilting group, and so they've recently made new quilts for all the beds, and that's their ministry. They provide quilts to these families as they come in, and then they take them with them. So yes, we have volunteers who help us stock on our, we even have some churches in Virginia, the women's circles, that will help us supply toiletries or toilet paper or diapers. Oh, goodness, the diapers. And, just help us keep the house stocked and ready to go. We have folks who in Raleigh, maybe they're downsizing. Maybe they're moving from their house to assisted living, and their kids get what they want, and then they have all this furniture. And we can use that furniture then to stock the apartments. So folks call us and, we have sofas, we have bedroom sets, we have these things. We have a guy in Sanford who runs a mattress shop and he gives us mattresses, which is great for the apartment. I don't know time.
So how long do people stay in the Welcome House before they find their own permanent house?
Depends. Sometimes, I think our shortest guest was 18 hours. Husband and wife came and they had family that had already been placed in Alabama. And so when the family in Alabama realized that they had arrived in Raleigh, they drove all night to get their family. So when you come as a refugee, you do not have to stay in Raleigh. You are placed there, but you're not required to live there. Because in the United States of America, we cannot require you to live in Front Royal, right? Like, you get to live wherever you want. And so how long did they stay there? So 18 hours was our shortest stay. Some folks stayed a little longer. During COVID, probably we had the generosity of churches opening more houses for us because we had such an influx, especially with the Afghan crisis. And so, depending on what apartments are available and when, some folks might stay 2 weeks. But it is temporary because people need to move on. This is not the end. You've got to move on, and they need to be independent and start making their home, which is what we just want to welcome them as our neighbors. Any other questions?
So a family shows up, it's a mother and a father and 3 kids, and they don't speak one lick of English. Where do you start? What kind of staff do you have to start helping them learn English?
Oh, I'm so excited. So, when they're here, it's a lot of charades. And you pull out your Google phone and you just start typing and you find out, do you speak Dari? Do you speak Pashto? Do you speak Spanish? Do you speak French? But one of the things, most everybody has a phone, yeah. They all.
They come out of these shacks with phones?
Yeah, pretty much. One family that was in the house this week, I'll mention them later, they did not have a phone, and that was very surprising. Most everybody has a WhatsApp, and that's how they communicate with family back home as well. So you start with charades, and then they start English as a second language classes. And you start by teaching the alphabet, and, conversational English, and then they're working and they're living in community and they have to pick it up. So, I led an ESL class with a friend, Lou Dawson, who actually knows how to teach reading. I don't know how to do that, but I'm good-hearted. And some folks pick it up really quickly, and some folks, I think the hardest part is, for me, was watching some women from Afghanistan who did not know how to read in their own language. And so that made it just took longer to kind of put all that together. Any other questions?
So how many people would you be serving at one time?
Well, right now we have 3 houses, so we have room. I would say we have room for probably 7 families. All of our houses are full right now. So people come, people go. Church members like yourselves, they'll come in. If a family leaves, they'll help us come in, wash all the linens, reset the rooms, reset the pantry, that kind of thing. But yeah, folks are coming and going all the time. Sometimes there's lulls. Another thing I wanted to say about language. We had a lull in August and September where we did not have new arrivals. And so we took that time to do some renovation in the houses, because we had probably in the Crabtree house over 2,000 people in and out of that kitchen over so many years. And so we took the time to gut the kitchen, and church members helped us with that, to rebuild and, put in new flooring, paint, do new cabinets, that kind of thing. That lull also allowed us to sit back as staff and think, what are we missing? And we realized we have such a rich group of folks who have come through Welcome House, who understand what it is. And they're Congolese, they're Colombian, they're Afghani. And so we hired a whole set of cultural liaisons who are able to work with us in the houses, and it makes those connections move so much quicker and so much faster, and I think helps people acclimate better. We're so excited about that part. I am tickled to death about that.
Do you help them find jobs?
So that is the work of the social worker from the refugee agencies. That's one of their jobs, is to find jobs for these folks. Because they only have, like for Joshua's family, it's got $6,000. You can think of an apartment, the cheapest apartments in Raleigh, he has a family of 5 for a 3-bedroom apartment is going to be $1,000. I mean, somebody's going to start working like immediately. And so that's part of the refugee resettlement office's job is to find jobs. Our job as Welcome House is to speak words about welcoming folks and asking people like yourselves, do I have the ability to hire people? Do I know people who need workers? Could I put in the word? Because I'll promise you, the folks who come through the refugee process, they are grateful and they are committed. And so they're going to start working. And it's really just some of the most amazing people that I've ever met. So. Okay, what time am I at?
It's 10:30.
Okay, any other questions?
I just got one.
Yeah.
Is the local government supportive of these missions?
Yes, so remember that all of these folks are paying taxes. They're going to school. And again, they're very focused on building a life. And so they're really good neighbors to have. Now, that being said, they do odd things. So, they maybe don't quite understand that you don't put meat in the closet, right? Because they've never had a refrigerator. So you'll walk in and be like, why is all this fish in the closet? So there's things that, you just kind of have to learn, and they're learning. And the other, I look over at Shane, the other great partner in all of this is the school system. Because if you have kids, then now we have the resources of a whole cadre of educators who are also watching and working with us. And it's really wonderful to see how the community comes together around those things. One of the other exciting pieces we've been able to develop is a partnership with the Raleigh Parks and Recreation Centers. And so we don't just have ESL classes at the houses because they're only with us a couple of days, right? So working with Raleigh Parks and Rec, going into these recreation centers all throughout the county and around Raleigh especially, we're able to offer ESL classes close to your apartment. So, if you're a mom with littles, you can walk and the kids can play on the playground, do that kind of thing. We'll do ESL in the community room. And so we're really so grateful for that partnership that develops as well.
What about childcare?
Um,
Do they have to find that on their own?
Yeah. It's a nightmare. I mean, these folks they won the lottery and they're in a safe environment. They're in the United States where I think we all believe if you work, you can make it. But you gotta really work. And for these folks, it is incredibly difficult. What we find is that it's not the adults who come here who find success. What they're doing is they're pushing and they're working so that their kids can start to live that American dream. So, yeah, and the kids are doing it. Oh, they're just great kids. I love my little friend Joshua. He's playing football now, and he's just having the best time. He's a great guy. Yep, any other questions? Okay, well, during the sermon today, we'll learn a little bit more about Welcome House, but I do want to say thank you. Your gifts and your support to the CDF Global Missions Offering, your support of field personnel who are working, like Mark and Kim Wyatt, it makes all the difference for families. And if you think about our calling as disciples is to do what we can, when we can, as we can. I mean, that's all we can do. What's in front of us, that's what we do. So please know that while maybe you don't live in Raleigh, or maybe you don't have a refugee resettlement agency here in Front Royal, I'm not sure if you do or not, I should have asked. Your gifts, though, support work like this. And as I've learned from being a tiny little GA who wanted to be engaged in missions, I mean, it just unfolds all around you. One of the things that we've been talking to churches about is it's not just refugees that need housing. I mean, there is a housing crisis. that is going on right now. And so there are folks all around you who just need some support while they try to put themselves back together. So thank you for the good work that you do on that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. One thing I wanted to say, my friend Nell Green, who is a CBF field personnel, she's retired now, she said, you know, when people come to our country, who do you want the first person to greet them to be? And isn't it wonderful that a Christian can do that? You know, so it's a wonderful opportunity for Christians to be able to welcome and to greet those who are new arrivals to our country. But thank you so much, Amanda, and thank you all for coming.